picks have been, if not 100% pickle banned, very close to it.
Yeah, 100% in the LCS on 6.1, as you talked about. To be expected on this patch. Other picks that we saw a lot of yesterday, Misfortune, she has now been banned away. Graves we saw in the top lane role yesterday and in the jungle role, so wouldn't be surprised to see him on the map as well. Looking at the other 100%, I mean, Rise is particularly strong, but we didn't see him yesterday. He's a champion that, especially on 6.1, is kind of first pick worthy because of that flex potential.
Yeah, but we can also see it shut down heavily as we saw Wonderwear pick it up in the LCS and just got destroyed. So you have weaknesses in the early game, but once he's got his core, once he's got the tier and the catalyst, then he starts rolling up and start ramping up. But you need that time to let him scale. Interesting
that Trundle's banned. Not that he's not strong, because a lot of supports are playing Trundle. Yeah. He is good in a meta where, you know, high tank, you know, resistance is difficult to deal with. I just wonder whether it's that necessary to ban it. I guess perhaps with a couple of the games that Cast was playing on the way in, his Trundle was to be feared, but still not one that you see dropping into the bans every single game.
Yeah, especially not the first one in the series, perhaps. Maybe just going for a more blanket ban. But that leaves a couple of things open. Specifically, Fiora is open. Yeah. I believe that was banned every single game yesterday. Graves is up as well. We've seen from the team yesterday, from Renegades, it can be used as a flex, top lane, or jungle. And that's going to be first picked as well. So excited to see Graves. He's just an exceptionally strong pick on this patch.
Oh, and he really is. He really is. I mean, the ability to, what is it, like 700 damage with a Q when you make it explode off a wall, super strong. But that is a flex, as we were talking about. Can be jungle, can be top. Now I'm looking to see how Huma react. A couple of flex picks are available in this kind of situation. Lissandra is one that has been played. I wonder whether it's... I guess it could be a God Bro champion. It's kind of in the realms of possibility. Yeah. Willip, if you remember, stuck to kind of the Jax Hecarim setup, which aren't so great right now. I wonder what's in his playbook. So they flex the Lissandra and then pick a jungler for themselves.
Okay, that makes sense. Haven't seen Willip play Lissandra for a long, long time. We can see if he picks that back up. What's for certain is the Rek'Sai will be going into the jungle, but still a flex is very nice. And waiting for the next two picks coming in from IHG. I'm trying to think if there's any obvious picks we've overlooked heading into this game. Elise is still up as just a strong jungler. Lee Sin as well are kind of in the top tiers.
Poppy's up if you're looking for support, or another alternative as a support would be the Alistar. Saw a lot of priority on that yesterday. Actually, no, we didn't. It was a surprising fact that we didn't see a lot of it. More on Poppy and Morgana, because we saw Millennium pick Morgana in pretty much every single game. I was thinking back to the LCS where we saw a whole lot of Alistar.
Yeah, Masterwork actually went more towards the Morgana, which was surprising as he was a big Alistar player. So,
but it was into the Poppy, and that worked very, very well. Denied so much in yesterday's games when Poppy was trying to engage.
And Poppy is still available in this game, so we could see that come out. Morgana also kind of works against Alistar. You can pop the Black Shield if you headbutt, then pulverize, and you will still get the CC, but it's still annoying to deal with, especially just other CCs are difficult to land on targets who have the Black Shield on. Looking towards the Kalista as well, so we've got the bot lane locked in, and just have to wait probably for the mid lane or top lane now coming in from Huma. And waiting for the final two picks to lock in here. It will be a mid laner and an AD carry. Oh, they've already got the AD carry, it's Lucian, so it will be the...
Either jungle or top.
Jungle or top.
Yeah, depends on exactly on where they want to put the Graves. So a lot of flexibility still on the top half of the map for IHG, which is something that they're going to have to kind of dominate, because we talked about Whirler being a very strong laner, Godbro being very strong as well. Holy Phoenix has already got himself on a Callisto, which, as a champion in general, tends to have a very strong early game, is going up against Illusion. So that is, you know, a lane matchup that we've seen time and time again over the last few weeks on these patches. Pick the strong early laners and hold your own in the laning phase. But what do IHG have for the top half of the map?
Well, as much as I'd like to see Zilean, it's going to be it's going to be swapped up to Castan here. So going to put that in the mid lane. They don't really know what the mid lane is going to be right now from Huma.
So that means. So that puts Graves top lane, Elise in the jungle, with Kassadin mid. So that is a blind Kassadin pick. It kind of zones out a fair number of assassins when you look at like the LeBlanc matchup. That is a matchup that favors Kassadin, and now Godbro either has to take the Lissandra or find something that does well. I'm looking at like...
something AD.
Normally, Godbro would opt for like a Diana or an Azir, neither of which are particularly strong in the current meta. Still waiting on Azir to come back out, but we've seen a lot of the double AD carry meta setup. So I wonder whether he'll go for something poking, like an Ezreal, perhaps?
Yeah.
That seems like perhaps something Godbro might opt towards. We've also seen a bit of the Corki. Faker played it. We saw it in yesterday's game as well when 380 carries was what Renegade's Banditos was trying to pull off.
Didn't work out that well for them, but I like the idea. And actually going to see that one in this game as well. So it's all about how he utilizes the package, because from yesterday we saw Corki just fly into the enemy jungle, 1v3, and then died. So
yeah, Kadril had a rough game on Corki because it started so well. Like, the setup for the game was great. They went like 3-0. 5 kills, 5-0. Then he flies into the jungle into 3 people using the package. And then it's like, oh, well, I'm dead and we can't take anything. And now the game's been stalled. So that is the one difficulty here that Huma may find themselves in, is if they do get stalled out, which this comp shouldn't, the Kassadin could look to run rampant later. The thing about this comp is I think Werlib is always going to be looking for a Lucian, looking for a Kassadin, a squishier target to blow up. The same can be said for Graves. He's a fairly low resistance champion, wants to build the damage. Only really Sterix is built, maybe a Hex Drinker.
More Malmos.
There's enough to get on top of him and just pop him. And if you can do that, it's possible to just continue to snowball the game. Yeah,
actually a big deal. I almost expect Kubon to pick up the More Malmortius and the Sterix as the first 2 items. Typically, that is the setup you go in jungle. But yesterday, when we were looking at the top lane, it was like Ghostblade into even Rapid Fire Cannon, or then go for a defensive item after that. So I don't know how he's going to build in this game. I feel like you always have to when you have big AP damage threats, a Corki in the mid lane, with Lissandra the ability to pick him off. So that could be a possibility in terms of item builds. But getting a little ahead of ourselves, because we have to take a look at the big compositions, and we want you guys as well to get in on the discussion on Twitter using those hashtags IHGWin and HMAWin for Huma, and tell us which team you think is going to take this one. And I think this could actually be a pretty close series. I like the drafts from both teams as well, so difficult to call right now.
Yeah, I like the drafts as well. When you look at this kind of setup, one of the only real times we've seen Kassadin in recent times is Origin picking it for Power of Evil in LCS in week 1. The problem with that, I'm speaking at least from a European sense of things, when we had that, there was very low wave clear. On this one, they got a Lucian, they got a Graves. Graves with his Q can do a fair amount of wave clear, so it's not the most problematic setup for them.
All right, let's get into this game. Illuminar Gaming up against Huma. Huma have showed how strong they are as individuals. Can they bring it together as a team? It'll be very difficult for Illuminar Honor Gaming to bring it home if they do. But if Nick gets big in this game, starts running over the team as Kassadin and Graves as well can scale out of control, there's a lot of things that Huma have to keep down in this game.
Yeah, there are. And, you know, I think there's a lot of discussion, actually, around Huma. I always end up getting tweets whenever I'm tweeting about Challenger Series. Everyone's talking about, are you excited for Huma? Are you excited for Huma? I mean, I'm excited to see them, but they've got to get past IHG first, which I don't think is an easy feat. There is a reason the players on IHG have been to this level so many times. Now you've added in the likes of Nick, you've added Creatine, very experienced players. Nick used to be on Gambit, Creatine formerly in the LCS under Millennium. That could just be the boost they need here to kind of weather the storm of Huma. If they can use team play to their advantage, could hold out just like we saw Millennium do yesterday.
This is going to be a team who are very hungry to get back into EU Challenger because they've never really had to step out. They've always been there. They've always been competing in the league. Now they have to try and fight to get back in. This is a big deal for the players, and I expect them to fight tooth and nail for it against Huma here. And to start off the game, pretty much just a fan, but we do have some deep vision coming in from Huma. Kuban actually goes around the ward. I'm not sure they actually sort of got placed down, but it will be the Lees and Graves going for the double jungle, while the Rek'Sai and Lissandra, I believe, will be starting in the top side. And we saw this yesterday with Graves and a Lees in a lane swap situation clearing the jungle. They literally take no damage.
Yeah, it's such a good combination. Between the Spiderlings and the knockback from Graves, it's you know, fairly easy clear, but there's the information that was needed from Huma. They get exactly what they wanted. So Werlib actually went up to the lane rather than double jungle because they didn't have the read on this lane swap. So it was nice from IHG to avoid the vision. I do wonder now how that's going to affect Werlib because he's not really able to leech much off the wave. He did actually get a 3/4 of a wave, so it's not that bad actually overall. Didn't get pressured out, but he now is going to have to join Santorin while Kuban and Tabasco still continue to go around as well. I wonder whether they just wanted to dodge the Lissandra into Graves matchup. I mean, we saw Graves against melee matchups yesterday and have a fairly dominating performance. Against the likes of Lissandra, I feel like she probably can weather a little bit more of the harassment that Graves is trying to put down. He can't auto-attack her through the minion wave, whereas she can. She can return that fairly easily. So I wonder whether that is the kind of the thought process here between IHG.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility because, as you alluded to, it was the Graves and the Shen matchup where Shen can't hit you, you can hit him, and you just shove him into tower. A laner who has wave clear, which is actually somewhat rare in the top lane. You actually don't have that many champions who have good early game wave clear like Lissandra, versus Graves can actually deal with him. Going for this lane swap up now, pushing up the top lane mitigates a lot of that. Now in the bot lane, Holy Phoenix and Shusuikat, with Whirlip now coming down, should be able to take this tower. They've got the stack rolling in, and Santrin's actually going to head into the jungle, get some more information. He has a ward, just depends where he wants to plonk it. But he's going to go for these Krogs as well, just to take everything off the map that he can in this lane swap.
I'm trying to keep my eyes on Tabasco here as well, because Tabasco's been caught on the top side of his map a little too much, and there's not actually all that much for him to farm. He's going to have to try and go aggressively... sorry, he went aggressively into Huma, which had already been cleared out somewhat. At this point, I'm kind of watching Tabasco. He's looking for the mid lane. Did have to back away. Turrets go down at roughly the same time, and Kuban is going to stick around in the top side. I guess Whirlip should stick around in the bottom side at this point to take the wave, and is pretty much what happens. And a teleport comes through from Nick just to get himself back into the mid lane, but instantly takes damage down from Godbro.
Yeah, he tried to get the Q down for the magic shield because Fast Bomb is magic damage, so he would mitigate a lot of that. It doesn't really end up mattering all that much because he has Corrupting Potions, so he's still getting harassed a little by Godbro, but with the minion wave coming in and the teleport used, he should be able to get most of this. And there's no real advantage to either team after that lane swap. Very slight advantage in terms of like just 2 CS in top and bot lane over to Huma, but it's practically nothing. It's just what the teams do now in phase 2 of the lane swap.
Yeah, and the mid lane advantage that was formed from the recall is actually going to swing a little bit in favor now of Nick, because the teleport gets back to lane, is able to just keep up in farm fairly well. And that's one of the things really is when you look at Kassadin, he's a champion that used to struggle significantly in the laning phase. Ever since some of the reworks, giving him that magic shield, and the matchups that you see him in, tends to be fairly safe. Can get to level 6 without too much difficulty, doesn't get poked out, especially if you're running teleport. You just get back to lane. Try and hit that level 6 as quickly as possible, and tends to draw a lot of lanes fairly even. Still can be tricky if jungle pressure is involved.
Yeah, Santrin only really has 1 level to go, though, before he can no longer ever pressure the Kassadin, though.
Yeah, that is true, but look at the difference that Santrin has had when it comes to the farm and the gold difference. Santorin right now has about 200 gold up on his opponent, which isn't that much in an overall sense of things, but when you look at this early on in the game, 5 minutes in, that could be the difference between a pink ward that now survives for a few minutes and is able to just scout out a particular area on the map. I believe Santorin even did pick up a pink ward and has put it defensively in his own jungle, so that really could be a fair difference now between these two teams if Santorin can utilize that vision control, maybe to catch Tabasco out.
It's a definite possibility. Now both teams have decided to swap up and are going to take the reverse turrets. So taking all of the turrets in the side lanes, or at least the outer turrets going down. Holy Phoenix, Whirlip and Jasuikas still pushing the top lane. And bot lane is a little slower, but with Graves and Chris and 280 carries, we'll be able to take this one out. This just means the continued push will now come in from Huma, and everyone from Illuminar are kind of split out. Kuban's actually going to take a lot of damage from this turret, and the minions as well going down on him. He may even get executed here.
Oh no!
Have we ever had a minion execute before?
We've had monster executes. Yeah. That's embarrassing. Well...
He's getting back to base faster.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it.
It is faster than the recall.
I really wanted a shop now. That's... I mean, overall it doesn't... I mean, he didn't get to shove the wave out and bounce it. That's the first thing, is that now is kind of going to be a little bit more difficult for IHG to set up for themselves, but it is, by the looks of it, just pushing away from Huma as it is. Grand scheme of things, no real gold change off that execute, but I'm sure Twitch chat are loving that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But also there was no enemy members around the area, so they're not even going to pick up experience. But yeah, if anything, just embarrassing. Tabasco going to carry on through his jungle, picking up the second spawns of red buff, so is Santorin, pretty much matching blow for blow. Both gone for a Tracker's Knife as well, to try and get the aggressive vision down. You can take a look at that vision game right now, with a lot of wards around kind of the central area, which is to be expected with the game fairly even. Only slight advantage over to Huma at this stage, all down to CS, mainly from the jungle as well, as you were mentioning. So just going to be the vision control around no man's land, up and down the river. I'm
glad to see Cass just check that bush in his own jungle, though. We actually saw Origin miss a ward there for a good few minutes that people walked past. Cass throws the black shield on himself and says, okay, well, you can combo me, use your cooldowns, it's fine. He just walks away after killing the pink ward. So Cass is already on the good vision control just in general. Actually, Huma, Holy Phoenix has spotted another pink in the bot side tri-bush. So they are all about that vision control right now. Really nice to see a team focusing so much on it this early on. Just got to be careful that they're placing wards behind them as well. I think Alistar may have been able to roam down there if they'd have had support from Elise. There was potentially the opportunity to look for a gank there, but positioning just wasn't in the right spot for IHG.
Yeah, not this time. In the mid lane, taking a look at some of the itemization as well. Godbro picked up the Sheen to start off the game. Probably going to go for the Triforce, also looking towards the Phage as well, so almost certainly. Nick just looking for the standard scale-up build with the Catalyst. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Warhammer coming out from Creatine, and Kalista probably looking for the Blade of the Ruined King as her first item. And nothing really out of the ordinary. Actually seeing as just Suicast as well, going for the E-Max, so the Black Shield, so he can block some of the extra magic damage coming from Tabasco and Nick. Sometimes you see a Q-Max, the extra damage, but going to be the defensive play this time.
So I kind of like what IHG have tried to do here. Putting the Kassadin up in the top side, Graves in the bottom side, and holding with their duo in mid lane. Because they know that it's only a matter of time before Huma start grouping mid lane with this Corki, looking for that tower. So if you can try and maybe take mid tower when you've got a 2 versus 1, there is that opening. Problem with that, though, is Huma's response to that is trying to chase out bot side, warding deep in the bottom side just to try and stop one of these solo laners from kind of trying to freeze. It's not going to be that effective to try and hold the waves on Kassadin and Graves for this long, but if they can just stall out Huma for another few minutes, it kind of brings Nick a little further into the game a little bit earlier.
However, Huma did just pick up the first dragon of the game. That's just disconnect and reconnect.
Yep.
We are playing slightly ahead of life, meaning that we can just get out and we won't have any delays. But yeah, it meant that Huma was able to go for that dragon there. And the first dragon is pretty much the most valuable dragon up until 5 on this current patch, and probably 6.1 as well, because of the 6% extra AD and magic damage that it gives compared to the other buffs is just more valuable. Godbro having to Valkyrie away from the culling here will just shove them away from tower, but with the numbers advantage over to Huma, at least under the tower, it means that IHG can't take it out. Nick going to be CC'd up here very briefly by just Suicast. Gone for the Funds Lord's Mastery as well, as you can see there. And just roaming towards the bot side now. So IHG roaming from lane to lane, trying to get something, but Huma have been pretty good at making the reactive plays to stop them.
Yeah, they have been. This is a big wave being shoved into the bottom lane, though, for now. IHG don't actually gain too much more than just some vision control from it. What they did manage is push, they managed to push Huma out of their bottom side jungle, now stop them from just advancing. And this game is a very kind of back and forth vision focused game. No real aggression shown by either team, no dives, no setups in any kind of engage. It's all been about vision control, just trying to get very small margins. And if you can get that margin when it comes to the vision to set up that kind of dive, that's when you'll see IHG or Huma look to make a play. Huma are going to wait just a few minutes longer to buy some time.
Well, it's just Suicast as well. Yeah, look for the binding
the
here.
Execute. Oh,
never has an execute looked so glorious. But Creatine in the mid lane here. It's going to be farming away. Just moving from lane to lane, just trying to find something, but really nothing has really happened just yet. Santorin actually headed into the top jungle of Tabasco to try and get some aggressive vision down. Tabasco picking up the sweeping lens, just immediately took that away. Not even in terms of the vision game are teams able to get any ground on the other. Huma, over time, just literally based on farm, have gotten almost a 1k lead in terms of gold. That's coming from the mid lane and jungle, it looks like.
So speaking of that mid lane, Godbro slightly delaying his Triforce. I say slightly, by 1100. Normally you'll see the Triforce just built straight up, then into the Sorcerer's Boots. Just because of the amount of extra damage that Corki gets on that Triforce. Delays it with his boots. He knows that he has a comfortable laning phase right now, has a comfortable lead, and Huma will look to group about a minute or so later at this rate, but at this point he's just getting that slightly extra bit of damage for now against this Kassadin.
So interesting, we were talking about Holy Phoenix and the itemization he was going to go. Opts towards the Runeland's Hurricane over the Blade of the Ruin King as his first item, but still has the Vamp Set just for the extra lifesteal. Nick is going to have to flash away here. I guess he already used his Riftwalk.
Yeah, his mana was fairly high, so it would only maybe have been the second or third charge, even if he had used it once. Easier, I guess, to flash. It's,
I guess so.
I mean, Riftwalk would have done the job, I would imagine, but...
Yeah, he may have been knocked up and then knocked up when he arrived at his destination, and then the follow-up could have come out, but still, I think he had time to Riftwalk.
Got to be careful, though, for Tabasco and the Creatin here. They are holding off on mid, but it looks like Huma didn't want it at first. They're waiting to go in. Very passive game, but they have the numbers advantage more than anything here. Although with the claw down now for Lissandra, that kind of removes a lot of the presence here of the dive.
At the same time, the minion wave was evaporating, and this one is going to evaporate too. Godbro gets some good damage onto Creatin, going to respond with the Ardent Blaze and a double tap, and Godbro has to think twice about continuing to seize his turret, but the culling was used to clear out the minion wave as well. Yeah,
and that's one of the other obvious benefits of having those Sorc boots this early on. Able to just kind of get away a little bit easier. Against the Kassadin, he will chase you down just by Rift walking onto you, but any little helps with the extra movement speed that comes from it. But Godbro generally is in a good spot right now. For IHG, it's not worrying that their Kassadin is down by just around 15 CS. That will be kind of recouped as this game goes on, so neither mid laner is really running away with this one right now.
And then you can see Graves Wave Clear in action. 1Q comes out, all you need to do is auto and you can take out the backline.
We've had a completely different build though, looking at Graves. Yesterday we saw the Ghost Blade into then the Hex Drinker or the Sterix. We also saw the Rapid Fire Cannon. This time it's a straight up Maw of Malmortius. First item. All I care about is that this Lissandra is not going to kill me right away. So, interesting change-up. This obviously will kind of reduce Kubon's overall damage for the beginning of the game when you take into account like just his general teamfight presence. He'll still have massive damage from his Q if he gets it connecting with a wall. I kind of want to keep my eyes on this to see exactly how much Kubon is going to have.
Yeah, this is more of the jungle build than anything. Definitely a departure from top lane, but there's so many good items you can build on Graves. It's pretty easy to itemize, but yeah, it was like you were mentioning in Champions, like the amount of magic damage on the team combined with mid lane as well, Godbro, and even the Jesui cast to some extent with the Thunderlord's Mastery. It makes sense to get that early magic resist. The question now is, does he go for Sterix on top of that for the extra health, and also the fact that you cannot be bursted instantly in a fight and become surprisingly tanky. Whirlup tries to take this tower down, may not be enough as, as
is it enough?
No, the caster minions are already dead, but it's going to fire one last auto.
That one last minion was like...
Not enough.
Legolas, bring him down! Runs in with the charge. Didn't happen that way, yeah, exactly.
But literally just needs to be sneezed on. Haven't seen that as a use for the package so far.
I'm assuming it was about to run out.
Maybe. Oh, good engage though. Fate's Call comes in. Nick will be going down for the first blood over the Holy Phoenix. Mystique going to go down as well. He'll try and headbutt away just recast, but it's just in vain as he also goes down to the team of Huma. Nice double pickup there on top of the dragon.
Yeah, really nice pickup, and that was honestly just Nick being too close to the action there without the rest of his team. They knew Kubon was top lane defending that turret, and Huma go from a very slow passive game into taking a dragon, now taking a turret. Whirlup can just walk top tower and just breathe on it and it'll fall, and they're going to get the middle inner here as well. This is exactly what Huma were looking to do, is around this time start to siege. They're even a bit early just from this Trinity Force not being available on Corki, but Nick comes in from the side, gets spotted by a Callista Ghoul, walks away. Not the best use of teleport I've ever seen, but was looking for the engage option and got spotted.
Yeah, but at the same time, they had a lot of people kind of out of position.
Yeah.
Also, Kubon was coming in from the front, so it's very difficult for him to land a lot of his damage. He'd already used his ultimate as well. We can take a look at that pick that happened after
Good
the
dark
fight.
binding that happened from Cuss there. Right into Nick. He had no option. He was trying to just catch out the Morgana, gets bound, in comes the knockup, and from there it's all she wrote.
Yeah, pretty much pretty clean, honestly. They just got a pick with Fate's Core and the binding. And mid lane's just going to be cleared out as well. Looking at the wave clear actually coming in from IHG, yes, they have a decent amount coming in from Graves, some extent to the Spyling, but more also Lucian and also the Force Pulse. You have to have the people in the right in the right place, and they didn't have that in the mid lane.
Pulse.
What?
Pulse. We have a new item, or a very interesting item on
What
Kalista. That is an item I very rarely see, let alone as a second item picked up by an AD carry, and that is Death's Dance. It's the first item in the item slot for Kalista right now. So what Death's Dance does is it's an item designed to be an anti-assassin item, because what happens is it takes some of the damage that you're taking, 12% of damage taken, is actually, rather than given right then and there, it's spread over the next 3 seconds as a bleed. So it doesn't completely nullify an assassin, but one that would just about kill you. Now you have about 3 extra seconds just to kind of reply with some damage, get a little bit of lifesteal back yourself.
It's a decent early damage item as well because it gives AD and cooldown reduction, but the interesting thing to note is this is 524 and it gets buffed next patch. And this is this is the nerfed version.
This is the nerfed version. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I wonder whether Holy Phoenix had forgotten about that as well. Because
just playing it on live right now in Dynamic, he was like, this item is great.
Let's be real, 6.1 didn't have the biggest changes. We'll get to that because Godbro and Cass are going to try and defend this turret, but 6.1 didn't have the biggest changes, so you could be excused for letting one of the little changes kind of slip.
Very true. But still, Death Dance is still a strong item.
Oh yeah. I really like the item as well.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's, in this current form on 524, I don't think it was the most viable item on every AD carry. Again, it's meaningful choices. Is what am I against? Oh, I'm against a Graves that wants to burst me, a Kassadin that's going to burst me the later this game goes. So let's spread that damage over, you know, some monthly repayments.
That's pretty much what Death Dance is. That's a pretty good analogy. Bot lane is now being sieged in. Whirler will get the cocoon. And Nick gets a little bit of harassment with Force Pulse, but he doesn't do all that much damage at the moment. What's he been maxing in this game? He's been maxing Force Pulse as well, so didn't even do that much damage. Bot lane's going to drop fairly low. Oh, that does not feel good at all.
And now the damage returns.
Has to run away. The Q comes out from Kuban, trying to clear a non-existent minion wave, trying to get a bit of harassment down, but the flash knock-up not landing is really big from Alistar because it's so difficult for him to get in range regardless onto this team, and now he doesn't have his big engage tool.
Yeah, that's huge for the next few minutes here. And, you know, this tower falls. Kuban wasn't in position to help with the wave clear, and they need, realistically, both the Lucian and the Graves. If Lucian doesn't have his ultimate, it's difficult to clear the waves up as well. It is coming back up in just a couple of seconds, but look at the damage being returned onto Mystic at this point. Huma are going to have to back away for the next wave to join. Meanwhile, top lane, the amount of minions should just push the wave into the turret, and they will take that just naturally. So Huma are just gaining things around the map, regardless of what they're doing.
They don't need to roam into the mid lane right now. That's even pushing as well. So if they take the bottom turret, they can easily rotate to mid lane. Maybe they can get a pick here. There's a lot of damage coming in from the Cullings. Just Recast has been chunked out. He'll have to stay a little further back. Force Pulse comes out. Whirlup's going to be jumping away with the Glacial Path.
Problem there is they use the abilities like collateral damage to just deal damage rather than execute. There was no way of chunking Huma lower down in health to try and pick up the kills. Now they kind of have to try and chase them out of the base without the turn coming. You can see Kuban went up to the top lane, wasn't in time to protect the tower. That fell to the minions. Mid lane was kind of absorbed ever so slightly by Tabasco, but there's a big wave there still for Nick. So full vision for Huma when it comes to where IHG are. No real surprises to come from anywhere. IHG don't have many options in this kind of situation.
A lot of the towers went down as well over the last couple of minutes. 6 towers to 2 in this game over to Huma, and you can see that reflected in terms of the gold. Over 6,000 advantage to them at 21 minutes is pretty big. And Godbro has just picked up the package as well, so again the momentum is in Huma's court, and they can make the next play as well because they're continuing to make these proactive plays. They have the vision in the opposing jungle. Whirlip is pushing the top lane, and IHG have to make some miraculous reactive play now.
Yeah, somehow they have to get Nick into this game. Normally a couple of kills onto a Kassadin will do it, but finding those kills is fairly difficult. You've got a mobile Corki, a Kalista that's difficult to lock down. Lissandra is able to escape in most situations, or at least delay you by ulting herself for so long that the rest of the team outputs damage. So IHG will struggle if Tabasco can't get the picks, if Mystic doesn't get the flash knockups from Alistar, and his flash is still not available for a little bit longer as well. Probably about a minute left on that cooldown. So this is another dragon going over to Huma. They have a good amount of control on the map. And I feel like once they establish control over the Baron pit, there's not too much that'll stop them. With a Kalista and a Corki, that should go down fairly quickly.
It will go down fairly quickly, and IHG, fairly difficult to contest as well. One with the vision, they've been trying to push into the top side because they're very wary of the fact that Baron could go over to Huma. But they have the culling, they have some tools, but it's all going to be based around Mystic getting a good engage with his flash. He went for distortion boots as well because this is a key part of his engage. Yeah. So it will be coming off cooldown fairly shortly because of that reduced cooldown reduction.
One thing I will say that IHG have done fairly well is in this last minute or so established some control of vision in their blue side jungle. What that does is prevent Huma from clearing the entirety of the jungle out so that they don't get baited down. If IHG got baited into a fight, it would be pretty much the end of the game because it would result in Baron followed by the heavy siege from Huma. But they did have a couple of wards there. They still have 1, 2 that you can see. One is going to die. And they have the Rift Spirit, so there is enough, plus the Rift Scuttler Vision for now, there's enough to know that they shouldn't get baited into a fight. But once those wards die, if Huma still are in that jungle, that's when it becomes a real problem for IHG.
Illuminar don't really want fights in open ground as well. Like, a jungle fight would suit them perfectly. One, because Graves wants to try and get the damage with his Q, but also the chase down, the split up in the jungle was great for Kassadin.
But the problem with that is that's only if they're initiating the fight. If IHG get caught in their own jungle, which now they have to go through to check, of which Huma, are they doing the Baron? Mystic goes in alone, will find that they were doing the Baron, and that's going to be Mystic pretty much dead here. He either has to burn Flash, which is the engage tool, or just die here.
And he may just go in. He's going to use that engage tool, and Nick is there to try and follow up, but Mystic's going to go down. Nick is not able to get a kill on Holy Phoenix as he flashes away. Now has to run away. Santorin is going to be following after. Suicast will get in range, but he doesn't even need to be there. Puts the shield on Santorin for the assist, gets some money in the bank, and now Huma can go for the Baron if they want to with those 2 picks.
Whirlip was so confident that Kuban has so little damage. He walked into the end of the line before the second explosion came on. He just walks through, there's a catch!
And Creatine will go down. Kuban has to try and kite away, uses the ultimate to try and get some distance between him and the enemy. Tabasco is not going to be so lucky, and the binding over the wall just shy of hitting Kuban. But still, another 2 picks will mean that HMA will go for the Baron, and they will get it.
Yeah, they're going to get this Baron with no contest. I mean, Mystic got caught out, didn't flash early to get himself away, ended up using his ult and trying to stay, but Nick doesn't have enough damage right now. Kuban doesn't have enough damage, whereas you look at the side of Huma, Godbro has so much poke potential now, especially with an Infinity Edge completed alongside that. Now his poke and his auto attacks are deadly. We've got a Kalista that has Death's Dance, which isn't the biggest damage item, but it means when you get onto her, it takes so long to kill her that you can't do too much. So from here, Mystic could have flashed earlier, chooses not to, ends up flashing into the fight and dying. Nick was pretty much already a goner at this point. There's no real way of getting out. He was trying his best to take down the Kalista, but again, just the Death Stance is keeping her alive for a little bit too long, and then she lifesteals back up a bit. Good knock up from Santorin to flash up over the wall.
Pretty clean-cut fight there, and then after that, it was another 2 picks that went over to Huma. And this looks like it pretty much could be curtains for IHG, only 26 minutes into this game, as the bot lane push now coming in for Huma. And while IHG have a lot of wave clear, when the minions have been Baron buffed, there's now less wave clear that they can actually utilize.
I mean, it's one of those situations where, wow, that Graves Q did
pretty much
almost
nothing.
Less than nothing. I mean, they have circumstantial wave clear, right? Graves has to step forward to use his Q. It doesn't always clear everything out. Holy Phoenix is just going to absorb cast for a sec and just be like, you can go out and knock up somebody if you can. Otherwise, we'll just get the inhib.
The main thing from that was just by drawing in Cass with his ultimate, it was enough threat for the next couple seconds where IHG had to respect that. In the same way, kind of like a Malphite ultimate when he has it up, that they have to back away to their inner turrets, to their Nexus turrets even, so they can pick up the inhib pretty much uncontested. So it was kind of nice as a zone tool. You don't really see it used that often in that way. You just see it straight up, pick him up, throw him in, and then go for the fight. But in that situation, it was pretty good. This
is just the equivalent of, you know, when you kind of in school trying to be like, well, I'll get my brother on you, and the threat is there. It's just like, actually, I'm not going to call that in. But
yeah,
he's just going to be around for like.
He's going to be watching.
One thing I want to kind of touch on is with Kuban's build, we've highlighted that, you know, he's got fairly little damage. I don't mind the Maw of Malmortius as an item on Graves, especially into double AP, or at least, you know, the mixed damage here as Nick is going to get taken out. But it means that Kuban has very little damage to return with. It means that he can't come and help in situations like this because his overall damage is so low right now.
It's also a problem because he fell behind. Usually by now he'd have another item to complement it.
That's true.
And his early game damage, because of his base damage is so high, he can usually go through that stage and not really feel it. But falling behind, it means that he doesn't really have that much damage.
And he's been having to throw out his Q out in the open and just hoping that people sit there. Godbro goes all the way in.
He was splitting up the fight, forces a couple flashes as well. Creatine maybe going down, has to run back to base. Last Rocket will not take him down, but the rest of the team not so lucky. Mystic is going to have to head back to the fountain, and Elise will be falling while Kuban has to head away. See if he can find a good pick here as everyone clumps up by Huma, but there's no real walls for him to bounce off, and the first Nexus turret has gone down. Mystic looking for the engage, and once again whiffs it with the flash. Now the rest of his team is in shambles. Nick will be going down. He's only just spawned. Creatine goes down, and Kuban will be sure to follow. Gonna chase him onto the spawn pad. The Sterex keeps him alive. Value purchase, but now the game is going to end, so maybe not so much. The first game is going to go to Huma in this best of 5.
Strong performance in game 1, and you know, for a very long time that felt like an even game. Coming out of the lane swap, you know, the towers were traded at the right times on either side of the map. Everything was very quiet, and man, Huma just blow that game wide open. As soon as they got that sequence of events where it was like Whirlib pushed top, they pushed in the bottom and then mid, got the dragon, got like everything in a few minutes, and Huma go, okay, well now we can kind of set ourselves up to win the game.
And it also meant that they just won in every part of the map. If they split push, then they win in those matchups. If they go for a team fight, they're still going to win. And Luma looked like they just didn't really have a game plan after that. It was like, well, we just lose if we go for this. And they didn't make any creative decisions to come back into the game. And it was systematic from Huma. They just got the vision control. They pressured the objectives. They forced Illuminar to come to them. And ultimately, they just came home with the win. It was a pretty clean game.
It was. And I feel like a lot of it was Huma being in the right place, right time, knowing what to do, but then also IHG, as you alluded to, not really having an answer. No. That's kind of the other half of that. This is what made day 1 victory for H2K look very impressive for the EULCS. Giants did nothing to stand up to them. IHG in this game did nothing to stand up to Huma. It was almost an identical game when you look at the flow and the pace. So impressive. Let's see what they can do, perhaps if IHG put up a bit more of a fight in the next game.
True, and I also don't think it was like a compositional thing, because I felt they had the tools to make those plays. So we'll see if they change up anything in Champion Select, because that is game 1 down of this best of 5. So we do need to take a short break, but we'll be back right after this.